YouTube, it's clear and obvious that Zion Williamson of the New Orleans Pelicans, generational talent, has had some struggles throughout his young career with injuries, conditioning, and honestly, maybe it's fair to say weight in general, okay? But there is absolutely fantastic news in my opinion on the Zion Williamson front that I want to talk about in this video, and that is his 2024 offseason body transformation. In this video, I want to talk about Zion Williamson's new look and potentially what it could mean as opposed to previous years. He looks completely different, he looks healthy, he looks a lot slimmer, and I personally think this will translate into exceptional results on the floor for the New Orleans Pelicans in the upcoming 2025 season. If you've seen the pictures of Zion this offseason, he looks like a completely different person, and there are some arguments both for and against this body transformation as far as what it could look like on the floor next season. We're going to talk about all of that and more in this video. This is the shocking body transformation of Zion Williamson for the upcoming 2025 season. Let's get into it, folks. So in this video, I want to lay out some points of emphasis regarding this topic, including, Zion's body up to this point, the pros and cons of what it's done for him in his early career with his generational talent. We're also going to be talking about, last season in particular, the 2024 NBA season, what things are trending towards, in Zion's career in general. And then for the last thing we're going to be talking about is the potential of this new look Zion Williamson on the floor next season. So obviously a player like Zion Williamson, where so much of his success and strengths as a player is in his, for lack of a better term, physical strength, right? That is his strength. And it's probably his biggest strength. His raw natural athleticism has given him the ability to be one of the league's top NBA players. And part of that has been his ability to use his unique blend of quickness, vertical leaping ability, and dominant physical traits to be one of the league's best slashers, transition finishers, and overall just basketball bullies, in terms of his effectiveness around the rim, right? So the physicality and his body in particular, it being so big and so strong, this includes his weight. This includes him being a lot bigger than most other players of his position. And so it's safe to say, like, one of the biggest reasons he is as great as he is because he's a lot bigger than other players, but there are a ton of downsides to this as well. If we look throughout his career, this is a guy that's just quite frankly struggled with a lot of injuries and conditioning issues, all right? Zion Williamson has played 5 seasons in the NBA, and he's only played 184 games total. And in my opinion, a lot of these injuries that he's had, lower body injuries, we're talking feet, we're talking, lower leg injuries, these things have 100% been influenced by his weight, because we see it all the time with these bigger guys, right? When you're carrying that much weight and moving at that pace for an 82 game season, you're just more likely to get injured over the course of a season. Not to mention that when you're as big as Zion is, your conditioning just can't be as good as like a smaller player would, right? We see all the time how a lot bigger players with, bulkier frames struggle to stay in shape without getting injured consistently, while also, again, playing 35, 40 minutes any given night on good energy, right? Like, it's really hard for a player that big, that physical, who relies on their athleticism so much to play over 35 minutes per game successfully. And in the case of Zion Williamson, he needs to be the best player on his team for them to win a lot of games. It's like throughout his career, I think this is a problem that you're seeing, like a pattern here where, again, it's kind of a paradox. Zion needs to be big and bulky to be at his best. It's part of what makes him so great, but it also is part of his downside of, getting injured and not being able to play a ton of minutes without getting gassed and, being healthy and available for most of an NBA season, right? That's kind of been like a paradox of his career so far. So when you're the best player on the team, you're the franchise player in Zion Williamson, you need to be out there. But I just think personally, I'm going to make this point, like a ton of the things we can attribute to Zion getting injured, to Zion, not having the best conditioning level, some of it could be his personal choices like diet and training regimen, but I think most of it has to come from the fact that he's so big and so physical with his play style. It's just almost impossible for a guy like that to burn the candle on both ends of the floor throughout an 82 game NBA season, expect them to be healthy going into the playoffs without any, extreme risks of getting injured. All right. And so I think this is a problem that Zion has had throughout his career. Now let's talk about, last season in particular and what kind of trend we're seeing for Zion Williamson's career. Last season, I think you saw a ton of encouraging signs from Zion Williamson. I mean, let's not forget this guy has already basically shattered his record of games played in an NBA season last year with 70 games played throughout the regular season. This was a big time step in the right direction. And while he might not have had the best production of his career or, had the best conditioning level throughout the season last year, he put together a very, very quality season, an all-star caliber season, led his team to a play-in tournament, in the Western Conference as the best player on the team in a, stacked Western Conference, all right? And so just having a healthy season under his belt now is a big time, like I said, step in the right direction. It is trending upward in that regard. Again, we can argue how maybe you'd like to see a little bit more of a breakout type of season for him being so healthy for so long, but just seeing Zion on the floor, right? I mean, for one, he averaged career high in assists. He averaged, 23 points per game, 6 rebounds, 5 assists, about a steal and a block per game he's going to be anywhere from, 55 to 60% from the field, which, last season, 57% from the field, saw him shoot above 70% from the line. I just think if you're a Pelicans fan, you got to think this is trending upward, right? Especially all of the, negativity going into his reputation to start last season. And so when you get into the play-in tournament against the Los Angeles Lakers, Zion Williamson looked like the best player on the floor throughout the majority of that game. I mean, he was absolutely dominant against two other, physically dominant players historically in LeBron and AD. He was taking over that game and unfortunately suffered a hamstring injury that took him out of the playoff race, took him out of that game. I do believe the Pelicans win that game if he is not, taken out at the end of the fourth quarter with that hamstring injury. It was so unfortunate to watch. But again, another super encouraging sign. He, while he did get injured and miss the playoffs, in his first real expectations game, he's never had a playoff series, right? So this is the biggest game of his career, arguably in the NBA, and he comes out and drops 40 plus and, kept the Pelicans in that game. So I think they win that game and advance to the 7th seed if Zion is healthy. Even if you want to say they lose that game and they play the OKC Thunder in the first round like they did already, I still think you see a different result. So not only are we seeing a upward trajectory during the season as far as Zion's career, we're also seeing him end on a extremely high note. Listen, a lot of people, including myself, were pretty low on Zion going into that game, and he really proved a lot to me personally, and I think a lot of NBA fans, that this guy is the real deal. As long as he's healthy and engaged and motivated, he is, arguably as good as anyone on the floor at any given time. He has that ability. We saw that in the play-in tournament last year. That's the upward trajectory his career is trending on. I think he has to build off that for next season. And when I saw his body transformation, in these photos I'm going to be showing you guys throughout the video, not only was I already higher on Zion than ever before because of the play-in tournament, now I see these and I'm like, oh my goodness, folks, this guy is about to shock the world. Let's talk about the body transformation, the pros and the cons, potentially what it could mean for him in the Pelicans season next year. Let's get into it. The elephant in the room with this body transformation is two things for me. On the pro side of things, I personally think this is going to lead to incredible results as far as consistency, conditioning, and productivity. He's just going to be able to do things that he wasn't able to before because his size held him back. We've seen plenty of players throughout, NBA history that are great players that, lose some weight in the offseason and basically transform their game for the next season. They're able to do different things on the floor. We saw it with LeBron in 2018. He developed more of an individual bag as far as shot creating, but lost some of the interior power that he was demonstrating on his drives. But with his skill and size, just genetically as it is, it wasn't a big deal for LeBron because he was still stronger than most players, didn't really need the extra bulk, right? And so I kind of think the same thing about Zion. He's just an excellent finisher skill-wise, regardless of his weight or his size. He's going to still be able to get into the paint and finish over 90% of players whenever he wants to in transition or going downhill. Again, so for the pros, I have a couple different things. I think for one, you're basically eliminating a lot of these risks of high probability for an extremely severe lower body injury. When you are pounding on your feet, your hips, and your hamstrings and your knees with less weight at the pace that Zion does, in my opinion, you vastly reduce the risk that those things get injured in a severe way. So that is obviously the number one positive. The second positive, I mentioned before, even though Zion's a freak, all-time great athlete in this league that we've never quite seen before, when you're that big, there's just certain limitations. I think defensively, he's going to have much more of a better opportunity to guard perimeter guys, okay? So he's just going to be a lot quicker with this weight loss. I mean, that's just how it works, right? He's going to be a lot quicker, he's going to be a lot more agile, and that's saying something for Zion, who's already probably one of the most agile players and quick players at his size I've ever seen in this league. And so now you're adding a ton of horizontal quickness in the stat category if you're a 2K fan, you guys know what I mean? So I think Zion's, defensive capability abilities with adding some quickness, adding some, a little bit of burst as far as agility goes, he's going to be able to guard a lot different of, matchups, right? Like he's not just going to be a big like post defender or a guy that can, come in and get in passing lanes or, block shots from behind. Like he's going to be able to actually like one-on-one guard a lot of different matchups than he was before. So I think defensively, this weight loss is going to be extremely helpful for him. Another pro is like shot creation, right? Like when you have a lot less weight to worry about and deal with, running up and down the floor, I think you're just going to be able to use a little bit more creativeness in the shot creating aspect. Again, we still haven't seen a extremely, good jump shot from Zion Williamson. We still don't see him take a lot of threes. I think that could improve this season. I'm not saying the weight loss will have anything to do with that, but I think it could, right? I think you could see more perimeter type of creation from Zion. I think it's just, inevitable when you lose this weight. Like I said, you get more quick, you get a little bit more burst, and this is a player that already has a ton of it, but it's hard to have an exceptional bag when you are basically a bowling ball type of body type, right? So while he loses a little bit of power, maybe he does add a little bit more finesse. And so I think this is an encouraging sign if you're trying to make Zion a more well-rounded player, right? Defensively and as far as shot creation goes, I think this body transformation allows him to be put in a position to succeed in both of those things on a level he hasn't before. Okay, so those are the pros for me. Obviously, the big one being the increased level of success as far as staying healthy goes. I mean, his conditioning level is just going to be at an all-time high. If he can, truly keep this weight off the entire season, if he can, stay in this kind of shape, he's just going to be way more dynamic, way more consistently, because the recovery process will be quicker. There's just a ton of good things that can come out of this as far as his conditioning and his availability goes for the rest of the season. Just, in my opinion, extremely decreases his probability for getting a season-ending injury, like no question about it. These are great things. And so, like, not only for him personally as a person to, take care of his health and finally take it seriously, there's a lot of players when they're young, they can just basically eat whatever they want and run it all off on the floor. But we see with certain players, like, it catches up to them, kind of like with Zion, how the conditioning has been an issue and his ability to stay on the floor and, not get injured has been an issue. So I think this is a good thing for him as well. Personally, you probably feel better mentally, but also when you're trying to contend for a title, which I believe the Pelicans are, they have, in my opinion, they're a playoff team next season with their roster they have. This team is just going to need Zion, like, at the highest level. And so if you could get, that type of production in the play-in game that he had against that Lakers matchup, like, consistently throughout the playoffs, I mean, this team is going to be a tough out, man. And so those are a lot of the pros there. The cons, a lot of people are saying, his whole, arsenal is basically just using his force, his brute strength in the paint and bodying players that type of way. He's going to be way less powerful. He might be a little bit more explosive, but he will be way less powerful. Again, I just don't see this as an issue, assuming he's going to be a more well-rounded player. I think if Zion can develop into a better defender, that's something that could help the Pelicans more than anything, right? So the power in the paint, as far as I'm concerned, like, it obviously is Zion's like trademark go-to, but I don't think like losing, however much weight it is, 10, 15, 20 pounds, is going to make him less powerful, as much as you'd think. I think if anything, it's going to make him more agile and quick. And so he'll be able to blow by defenders. It's not like he's going to be struggling to body people up down low. Like, he's still going to be one of the strongest players in the league, whether he's 280 or 250. Like, that's just not going to be an issue in my opinion. I think he's still way stronger than most matchups. You might see a little bit drop off in power, but you will see a great jump in finesse. I think it was Charles Barkley who said this is a bad move for Zion, but like, you got to pick one, man. Do you want him to be healthy and, in shape and conditioned, or do you want him to be the dominant physical presence, as far as power goes? Like, you can't have both. It seems like with Zion, you can't have both. And so I don't know why we would be saying this is a negative thing for Zion to get in shape and take his, physical health and conditioning extremely seriously. This is what we've been asking him to do for years now, and it seems like he's finally making that progress. It's like, I just don't think a lot of, cons should be attributed to this until we really see what it looks like. If he comes out in the season and he's just not as effective as far as his finishing ability and his positioning ability down low, like, and his, ability to finish at that 55 to 60% clip, then we can maybe criticize and say, basically, if the only thing that happens is his, finishing and driving ability drops off and nothing else gets better, then you can criticize him and say, okay, maybe we put some weight back on. It's just not working out. It's not as effective, right? And just pray for no injuries. Then you're kind of in trouble with that. But I'm just saying, if that's the case, like, sure, but I don't know how you cannot think this is, a productive move for several different reasons that I've laid out in this video, including, making Zion into a more well-rounded player, which really starts on the defensive end of the floor. I mean, he has all the intangibles and physical attributes to be a top-tier defender in this league, an extremely versatile defender, And so when you have guys like DeJounte Murray and CJ McCollum and Brandon Ingram on your team, I'm not sure you necessarily need to go out and score 30 a night with the role Zion's gonna be able to have. But if he can add a dynamic defensive ability to his game and still put up 20 a night on that efficiency, I mean, the Pelicans will be a 3 seed, a 2 seed, a 1, like they're gonna be that good. So it's just, I think this move is so good for so many different reasons. You know, on the floor specifically is the injuries, and as far as his game personally, I think it's gonna make him a lot more positioned to have success defensively as more of a versatile defender. He's gonna be able to put more energy into that end of the floor because of his conditioning level, which will be much improved. And also just it extremely, you know, mitigates the risk of a season-ending injury. He's already had plenty of those, so we just don't need more of those. And so if you're a Pelicans fan, I think this is an absolutely amazing thing, and I think the league is gonna be shocked by just how good Zion's gonna be next season. For one, I don't think the strength drop-off is enough to say he won't be a dominant interior finisher like he always has been. I just think it's gonna be more consistent and more reliable now, if anything, with the weight loss. And two, like, this was one of the only things holding Zion back. Like, this is just gonna shock the NBA in my opinion, and the Pelicans already a playoff team. I think this raises their ceiling a little bit more. And so, you know, I didn't really super hard script this video, so if you guys think it's all over the place, I apologize. I'm doing my best. Pelicans fans, let me know down in the comment section what you think of this video. What do you think about my take on Zion, and how, you know, do you perceive this body transformation? I would imagine the feedback on, you know, Zion's body transformation from Pelicans fans or not has to be overwhelmingly positive, because again, this was like one of his big flaws, and he's literally fixing it. He looks like a different person, man. He looks like a totally different guy, and it's just amazing. Like, on a personal level, I'm just proud of him. I'm happy for him. You know, anybody that does that kind of thing, I think it takes a lot of strength and it takes a lot of hard work, and so I'm happy he's doing that. And I really think the results are going to be exceptional for this team. But yeah, again, Pelicans fans or not, let me know down in the comment section. What do you think of Zion's transformation? Am I making a bigger deal out of it than you think it will be? I don't know, man. I think it's going to have a major impact on his season, which will have a major impact on the Pelicans season, which will have a major impact on the Western Conference. And so that's kind of a big deal to me. Maybe not for you. Again, let me know down in the comment section. Make sure you guys leave a like on the video. It really means a lot to me. This is going to shock the NBA, man. Nobody's going to be ready for this type of Zion. It's almost like a reverse Giannis Antetokounmpo. They have very similar offensive abilities as far as, you know, driving and getting to the rim, finishing at an all-time great level. And so now it's like early in Giannis's career, I feel like he had to bulk up and gain the bulk to be able to do that consistently, and Zion had to lose the bulk. So it's kind of funny to me in that way. I don't know, maybe we see Zion take a massive leap as far as his all-around game, get an all-NBA caliber selection. Like, I think all-NBA third team could be realistic if he improves his defense and becomes a more well-rounded offensive player. Subscribe to the channel if you guys haven't already. We're getting so close to 14K, man. I can't wait. Thank you guys for all the support. Follow my Twitch, follow my Twitter. I'll be streaming on Twitch very shortly, NBA 2K25 content. I could be even live right now, who knows? And hopefully you guys just have a fantastic rest of your day today. Good luck, Zion Williamson. Good luck, Pelicans, next season. I dropped my phone. I will catch you guys in the next one. This is your boy D Haven. As always, peace.